Hello and welcome, I am Counterplay, and in this Commander Deck Tech video we will be looking at Ruxa, Patient Professor. And looking at Ruxa, it is a 4-mana 4/4 Bear Druid. Whenever Ruxa, Patient Professor enters the battlefield or attacks, we're going to be returning a target creature with no abilities from our graveyard to our hand. And creatures we control with no abilities get +1/+1, and we may have creatures we control with no abilities assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. We're going to be playing a lot of tokens that have no abilities and other creatures that have no abilities as well. So first up here we have the Artifact Enchantment control cards. Beast Within for 3 mana, destroying target permanent, and its controller creates a 3/3 beast. Broken Wings for 3 mana, it's an instant, we can destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Since we don't have a lot of defenses for our opponent's creatures with flying, since we're playing a lot of vanilla creatures, nothing to be able to block them, we're going to have a couple cards in here that just focus on being able to destroy creatures with flying as well. Next up we have Nature's Claim for 1 green, destroying target artifact or enchantment, its controller gains 4 life. Return to Nature for 2 mana, choosing one of 3 modes, destroying target artifact, destroying target enchantment, or exiling a card from target graveyard. So this is going to be a modal card. We can use it to either exile cards and dual purposing, destroying artifacts and enchantments if we need to. We have Return to Earth for 4 mana, instant, destroying target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Just like Broken Wings, it's just another way for us to destroy creatures with flying, on top of being able to destroy artifacts and enchantments if we need to. And last up we have Song of the Dryads. It's a 3 mana enchantment aura, enchanting a permanent, and the permanent is a colorless forest land. Taking out a permanent on our opponent's side and just making it a useless land. Next section here I have some anthems. First up is Heroldic Banner for 3 mana. Enters the battlefield, we choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+0, and it can be tapped for the chosen color as well. So not only is it boosting the power of our creatures, it is going to be ramping us at the same time. Next up we have Murragana Petroglyphs for 4 mana. Now this card is so synergetic with this deck because it reads, creatures with no abilities get +2/+2. Not only is it buffing our creatures though, it is going to be buffing our opponent's creatures as well that have no abilities, but we should be the ones getting the better benefit from this boost. Next up I have Renata, Call to the Hunt for 4 mana. Renata's power is equal to our devotion to green, and each creature we control that enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So this is going to have a massive power with all of our mono green devotion, and it's going to be buffing our creatures that enter the battlefield after it's on the field. Next up we have Sylvan Anthem for 2 green, it's enchantment. Green creatures we control get +1/+1, and whenever any green creature enters the battlefield under our control, we scry 1. This is also going to include any tokens we're going to be generating as well. And last up, we have the Unnatural Growth for 1 and 4 green, enchantment. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of creatures we control until end of turn. This is a massive boost to our creatures during our turn and our opponent's combat turn. Next section here, I have a small creature control package. Mono green isn't really known for their creature control cards, but first off I'm including Dolmen Gate for 2. It's an artifact preventing all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures we control, meaning we are able to send our creatures out into combat without worrying about them getting blocked and destroyed through that way. And it allows Ruxa to safely go and attack as well, possibly returning a vanilla creature to our hand. Next card is Azuri's Predation, 5 and 3 green, sorcery. It's our board wipe card. For each creature our opponent controls, we're going to be creating a 4/4 green beast token, putting it on the battlefield, and each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. It's going to be allowing us to create a lot of tokens for each creature our opponents control, and each of those tokens is going to be fighting each of our opponent's creatures as well. Next we have Primal Knight. For X and green, sorcery, target creature we control gets +X/+X until end of turn, and it fights up to 1 target creature we don't control. This is just another boosting fight card we have. And last up, Ram Through. For 2 green, it's an instant, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature we don't control. And since we're playing a lot of vanilla creatures, we're going to be at a major disadvantage compared to our opponents and their creatures, so we're going to be needing to stay in the game through a lot of draw cards in order to keep up with our opponents. So first off I'm including the Elemental Bond. It's a 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature we control with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield, we draw a card. This also counts all the tokens we're going to be creating as well, as long as their power is 3 or greater. And next is Garruk's Pack Leader. Just like Elemental Bond, It's a 5 mana 4/4 beast. Whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under our control, we may draw a card, including our tokens. Next up we have Garruk Primal Hunter for 2 and 3 green. First ability reads, creating a 3/3 green beast creature token. Very synergetic because it's a vanilla creature, and the -3, drawing cards equal to the greatest power among creatures we control. So this is a massive draw engine for us with our massive powerful creatures. And since we're playing heavy powerful creatures, we're going to get a good advantage out of Greater Good for 4 mana. It's an enchantment. You can sacrifice a creature, drawing cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discarding 3. And we can also possibly get that creature back if it's a vanilla creature with Ruxa whenever it attacks as well. Next up we have, just for 4 mana, Harmonize, drawing 3 cards sorcery. Next is Hunter's Insight for 3 mana instant, choosing target creature we control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. This is very synergetic with our strategy with vanilla creatures being able to do their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. So we're going to be maximizing the draw from Hunter's Insight by casting it on a vanilla creature we control that is attacking. Next up we have Life's Legacy for 2 green sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, sacrifice a creature, but we're going to be drawing cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Like I said, with vanilla creatures, hopefully we have a massive powerful creatures drawing lots and lots of cards. Next is Mask of Memory. It's artifact equipment for 2 mana. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, we may draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card. Equips for 1. Since our creatures are going to be doing their combat damage through blocks, we're going to be drawing cards no matter what. Next we have Mouth and Feed, split card. Mouth reads for 3 mana, creating a 3/3 green hippo, and the feed side has Aftermath. We're going to be casting it from our graveyard, drawing a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. So as you can tell, all of our creatures are going to most likely have power 3 or greater to take advantage of all these draw cards. Next we have Regal Force for 4 and 3 green. It's an elemental 5/5 creature. It reads, whenever Regal Force enters the battlefield, draw a card for each green creature we control. It's going to be a massive draw engine in this deck as well, in a mono green deck. Next we have Return of the Wild Speaker for 5 instant. It's a modal card. We can draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures we control, or it can buff our non-human creatures +3/+3 until end of turn. This is either going to be drawing us card, or we're going to be doing a massive amount of damage by buffing our team. Next we have Rishkar's Expertise for 6 mana sorcery, drawing cards equal to the greatest power among creatures we control, and we may cast another card with converted mana cost 5 or less from our hand without paying its mana cost. Just another great mono green draw card based on power of a creature we have on the field. And just like that, Soul's Majesty is another one for 5 mana sorcery, drawing cards equal to the power of target creature we control. And the Great Hedge for 7 and 2 green. It costs X less to cast, where X is equal to the greatest power among creatures we control. And it can tap for green, adding 2 life. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, put a +1/+1 counter and draw a card. And last, to finish our draw section of the deck, we have Toski, Bearer of Secrets for 4 mana, 1/1 scroll, can't be countered, indestructible. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, attacks each turn, and whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And it's very synergetic with Ruxa, because all of our vanilla creatures are going to do their combat damage regardless of being blocked. So in mono green we have a big ramp section here, 13 cards. First is Cultivate, looking for 2 lands, put 1 into play, 1 into our hand. Emerald Medallion, might as well for a mono green deck. Our green spells cost 1 less. Gaia's Touch for 2 green enchantment. We may play an additional forest on each of our turns, or we can sacrifice Gaia's Touch to add 2 green to our mana pool. Next up is Karamatra's Acolyte for 4 mana. It's a 1/4 human druid, and taps and adds green mana to our mana pool equal to our devotion to green. We're going to have a lot of green permanents on the field. This is going to be ramping us a significant amount. And like Cultivate, Kodama's Reach is another 3 mana. Search for 2 lands, put 1 into play, 1 into our hand. Nature's Will for 4 mana enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, tap all lands that player controls and untap all lands we control. This is just like the Sword, Feast, and Famine. Whenever our creature is dealing combat damage, we're going to be untapping our lands. Nisa's Pilgrimage for 3 mana. It's a sorcery, searching our library for 2 basic forests, put 1 into play, 1 into our hand. Or if we have Spell Mastery, we can search for 3 force. Next up we have Nexus Lotus for 4 mana, legendary artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped, but we can tap it and choosing a color, green, at any amount of mana equal to that devotion to our mana pool. Next is Sokiko, Mother of Summers. For 6 mana, it's a 3/3 snake shaman. Whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, add that much green mana to our mana pool. Until end of turn, the mana doesn't empty our mana pool as phases end. So with all of our vanilla creatures doing their combat damage to players, regardless of being blocked, we're going to get a massive amount of green mana from this card. Sakura Tribe Elder for 2 mana, 1/1 snake, sacrificing it, searching our library for a basic land, put it into play tapped. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds for 3 mana, it's a 2/3 elf scout. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller draws a card if its power is greater than each other creature. And we can tap it for green, and adding X to our mana pool equal to the greatest power among creatures we control. Since we're playing a high-powered creature deck, this is going to give us a lot of green mana. Soul Ring, 1 for 2, colorless artifact. Transverse the Outlands. It's a 5 mana sorcery, searching a library for up to X basic lands, where X is greatest power among creatures. Put them on the battlefield tapped. With our big powered creatures, we're going to be getting a lot of basic lands with this. Onto our token generator section. First off is Avenger of Zendikar for 5 and 2 green, elemental 5/5. Enters the battlefield, we get a bunch of 0/1 plant tokens equal to our land count, and it has landfall, can pump the tokens it creates as well. Next is Feed the Pack for 6 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a non-token creature. If you do, create X 2/2 green wolves and put them onto the battlefield, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. And since we're able to get our vanilla creatures back from the graveyard when Ruxa attacks as well, we can have a little synergy there by returning that creature the next turn Ruxa attacks, and at the same time making a massive amount of vanilla green wolf tokens. Next we have Howl of the Night. Speaking of wolf tokens, putting 2/2 wolf green tokens into the battlefield for each force we control. Next is Sandworm Convergence for 6 and 2 green enchantment. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and at the beginning of our end step, we're creating a 5/5 worm token. And last up, token generators, is Tindersoot Dryad for 5 mana. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 Sapperling, and if we have the City's Blessing, Sapperlings we control get +2/+2. So these are our token generators, and as you know, tokens have no abilities, and so they're able to do their combat damage as though they weren't blocked, with Ruxa out as well. Next I have just a small tutor and graveyard recursion package here. First off is the MDFC card, Bala Ged Recovery for 3 mana. Return target card from our graveyard to our hand. And we have Green Sun Zenith for X and a green. Search our library for a green creature with X converted mana cost or less and put it onto the battlefield. And then I'll skip the lands for now. I'm including some vanilla creatures here that have a higher average power and toughness than what their mana cost is. So first off we have the Alpine Grizzly for 3 mana. It's a 4/2 bear. Garruk's Gorehorn for 5 mana. It's a 7/3 beast. Gigantosaurus. This is a great card in this deck. It's a 10/10 vanilla creature that only costs 5 green mana. Leatherback Baloth for 3 green. It's a 4/5 creature. Nyxborn Colossus. It's a 6 mana 6/7 creature. Oraska Frillback for 3 mana. It's a 4/2. Primordial Worm. It's a 6 mana 7/6. Quilled Slagworm. It's a 7 mana 8/8. Swordwise Centaur. It's a 2 mana 3/2. Terrain Elemental, it's a 2 mana 3/2, and lastly it's a Vorse Claw for 6 mana, it's a 7/7. We're not including a lot of just basic generic vanilla creature card. We're creating a lot of tokens with other cards as well, so we don't need to limit ourselves with just vanilla creature cards in the deck. And then lastly, the land package here. I have 37 lands included. We kind of have a higher converted mana cost average for this deck, so we're going to need a decent amount of lands to cover that mana cost of cards. So first off here I have the Bonder's Enclave. It's just a utility land. We can tap it to draw a card if we control a creature with power 4 or greater. Next up is Castle Garenbrig. It comes into play tapped unless we control a forest, and we can pay 4 mana and tap it to add 6 green to our mana pool to cast creatures. I have 31 basic forests in the deck. We're going to need a lot of basics for cards like the Howl of the Night, which is based on the amount of force we have. Next up we have Doe Shrine of Nyx. It's legendary land. We can tap it, choose a color, add mana to our mana pool equal to that devotion of the color we choose. Oran Reef the Vastwood enters the battlefield tapped, but we can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that enters the battlefield this turn. Scavenger Grounds, this is a utility land that's able to sacrifice a desert, which itself is a desert, to exile all cards from all graveyards. And lastly, we have the War Room. We can tap it to pay life equal to the amount of colors our commander is to draw a card. So that being said, in conclusion of the deck, it's going to be a challenge to win with vanilla creatures, so it's going to be extra fun when we're able to put a lot of heat on our opponents by staying in the game through all of our tokens and creatures that are able to deal their combat damage even though they are blocked. So here's a look at the mana value of the deck. As you can see, a lot of the cards are going to be converted mana cost 3 or greater. Most of our cards fan out and curve down after the converted mana cost 3. And the total price of the deck is around $265. And here's the 3 most expensive cards. And of course, this deck has no salty cards in it, according to EDH Rec. And I just wanted to add a quick note that there are some cards that work against our commander, like Asceticism and Garruk's Uprising. Especially with Asceticism, it's been errated to actually give our creatures hexproof, which wasn't around when Asceticism was in print. And Garruk's Uprising gives our creatures trample, so that will be giving our creatures an ability which will make them able to be blocked to prevent the damage going through from our commander. And that wraps it up for this Commander Deck Tech video. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below on what you think of the deck, and consider subscribing for more Commander Deck Techs in the future. And as always, have fun.